The UFL has undergone a complete overhaul in 2026, with 3 new teams being created and the Houston Gamblers making their return. With this has come a wave of new players, and the talent in the UFL this season is unlike ever before. In that wave has been a variety of former college football stars looking for a new lease on life in their football careers. So, if you want to keep up with some of your favorite college players, here's a look at 10 former college stars playing in the UFL in 2026. Quickly, I did a video on this topic last season, and I won't be covering anyone that I looked at on last season's list. So before we get into the video, let me give you a brief rundown of where they ended up after last season before we get into the guys for this year. First, former Ole Miss star quarterback Matt Corral is back for the Birmingham Stallions this season and looking to win the starting job in a star-studded offense. Next, former TCU Heisman runner-up Max Duggan started 5 games for the Battlehawks last season before signing a contract with the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL during the offseason. Then there's former Baylor star linebacker and running back Abram Smith. Smith was the RB2 behind Deion Jackson last season for the Defenders and rushed for 326 yards and a touchdown. He returns to DC this year looking for a more increased role. Next is former Clemson star wideout Amari Rodgers. Rodgers underperformed expectations in Birmingham last year, only racking up 175 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 catches. The Stallions brought in a ton of wide receiver talent during the offseason, and Rodgers couldn't make the cut. He is currently a free agent. And finally, it's former Virginia star quarterback Bryce Perkins. He had an incredible season for the Michigan Panthers in 2024, becoming the first and only for the foreseeable future, as the Panthers got disbanded this year, UFL MVP winner in franchise history. This earned him a preseason roster spot for the Carolina Panthers, and he is now with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of the CFL. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into this year's former college stars. At number 10, it is former Ole Miss quarterback and current DC Defenders quarterback Jordan Ta'amu. One guy I didn't mention last year who I really should have is DC Defenders quarterback Jordan Ta'amu. For fans unfamiliar with the UFL though, you likely better know him for his time as an Ole Miss Rebel. He served as the team's backup for most of 2017 before taking over and winning the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State and winning over Rebel fans in the process. He kept the starting job in 2018 and had a very solid year. He threw for 3,918 yards and 19 touchdowns to 9 interceptions in his final season, leading Ole Miss to a 5-7 record in the process. Ta'amu went undrafted in the 2019 NFL Draft, but signed with the Houston Texans as an undrafted free agent. Aside from one stint in the original XFL in 2020 as a member of the St. Louis Battlehawks, Ta'amu bounced around the NFL from 2019 to 2022. After missing the Texans' Week 1 roster, he saw stints with the Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions, Washington Commanders, and Carolina Panthers during the next couple seasons. He never made a regular season appearance in that time though, and elected to aim for more playing time in the newly minted USFL. He was selected number 2 overall by the Tampa Bay Bandits in the 2022 USFL Draft and went on to lead the league in passing yards with 2,014. He added 14 passing touchdowns to that resume as well, but with the Bandits relocating during the offseason, he elected to explore different options. He went back to the now returning XFL and was assigned to the DC Defenders. He won Offensive Player of the Year that season and took the Defenders to the XFL Championship, where they fell at the hands of the Renegades. While Ta'amu joined the Minnesota Vikings during the 2023 preseason, he has remained with the Defenders ever since. 2025 saw the best season of his pro career as he threw for 2,153 yards and 17 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. He finished as the runner-up in the MVP race and led the Defenders to their first UFL championship, taking home the game's MVP award in the process. Ta'amu established himself as one of the premier quarterbacks in the league, and if you were a fan of him in college, it's gotta feel good to see him succeeding at the next level. At number 9, it is former Washington wide receiver and current Birmingham Stallions wide receiver John Ross. One of the highest profile names on this list is former first-round NFL draft pick and Washington Huskies star John Ross. Ross is known to this day for his record-breaking 4.22-second 40-yard dash performance at the NFL Combine in 2017. That same performance catapulted him up draft boards to the number 9 overall pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. As most are aware though, his NFL career didn't pan out whatsoever. He failed to haul in a catch his rookie year, although he did battle injuries, but it never got much better from there. He spent 3 more years with the Bengals, recording a combined 733 yards and 10 touchdowns in that time. Since then though, he's spent time with the Giants and Eagles, but failed to find success. Despite the lack of NFL success though, his college career can't go overlooked. Namely, his phenomenal senior season. That year, he hauled in 81 catches for 1,150 yards and 17 touchdowns, while also returning a kick for a touchdown and picking one more up on the ground. He was named Pac-12 Player of the Year and First Team All-Pac-12 as he guided the Huskies to their first ever college football playoff appearance. In 2026, he signed with the Birmingham Stallions over the offseason and looks to give his career new life. It's no secret that if he still has some of that same speed he possessed in the pre-draft process, he could make a major impact on the UFL. At number 8, it is former Michigan State defensive end and current Columbus Aviators defensive end Kenny Willekes. Willekes was a 3-year starter at Michigan State from 2017 to 2019, where he emerged as a game wrecker. He amassed 228 total tackles in those 3 years, 102 of which were unassisted, along with 24.5 sacks. He made the All-Big Ten first team in both 2018 and 2019 before declaring for the 2020 NFL Draft. As most know, the 2020 class was loaded, and as a result, Willekes didn't hear his name called until the 7th round. He was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, with whom he spent 1 season and recorded 2.5 sacks. He spent the next 2 seasons in Minneapolis, but battled injury the entire time. He didn't record another sack in a Vikings uniform as the team released him in May of 2023. From there, he turned his sights to the UFL. He signed with the Michigan Panthers in December of the same year and established himself as one of the best pass rushers in the league over the next 2 seasons. He recorded 7.5 sacks and 51 total tackles over the next 2 years, but still battled injury during that time. Despite the injury concerns though, those 2 seasons were enough for the Pittsburgh Steelers to sign him for the 2025 preseason, although he did not make the main roster. With the Michigan Panthers dissolving this season, Willekes was drafted by the Columbus Aviators in the 2026 UFL Dispersal Draft. When he's been healthy, he's played at a very high level in the UFL so far. If he can stay on the field in 2026, there's no doubt he'll be a key contributor for the Aviators. At number 7 is former Michigan defensive end and current Dallas Renegades defensive end Taco Charlton. Another former first-round NFL draft pick, Charlton is entering his 3rd season in the league. He started his career at Michigan, where he established himself as a star during the 2016 season. That year, he racked up 40 total tackles and 10 sacks, which ultimately led the Dallas Cowboys to select him 28th overall in the 2017 NFL Draft. He spent 2 full seasons in Dallas, but struggled to break into the starting role among a deep pass rushing room. He recorded 4 sacks in his time in Dallas before he was released in September of 2019. He bounced around the league from 2019 to 2023, spending time with the Dolphins, Chiefs, Steelers, Saints, Bears, Jaguars, and 49ers before turning his focus to the UFL in 2024. He signed with the Birmingham Stallions ahead of the 2024 season and burst onto the scene alongside Carlos Davis as part of one of the best pass rushing duos in the league. Charlton racked up 6 sacks that year as the Stallions went on to win the UFL championship. Charlton signed with the Renegades in free agency following the offseason, but missed a few games due to injury during 2025. He recorded just 2.5 sacks last season, but looks to put together a fully healthy year in 2026. At number 6 is former Texas A&M running back and current Dallas Renegades running back Isaiah Spiller. Spiller is one of the most underrated Aggie running backs of the last several years, as his former teammate Devon Achane is usually the first to mind for fans outside of College Station. But Spiller was a star in Aggieland, rushing for over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons in 2020 and 2021 after totaling 946 yards in the 2019 season. Spiller was a 4th-round NFL draft pick of the Los Angeles Chargers in 2022, but over the next 3 seasons he struggled to stand out in a loaded backfield. He only compiled 137 yards with no touchdowns from 2022 to 2024. While he spent a brief time with the Las Vegas Raiders before the 2025 season, he was waived and did not join another team for the remainder of 2025. Spiller decided to enter the 2026 UFL Dispersal Draft and was selected by the Dallas Renegades. He will share a backfield with former Liberty running back Day-Day Hunter, who has established himself as a reliable option for the Renegades in the last several years. With Spiller at the helm, Dallas's backfield has quite the high ceiling, and he will finally have the time to shine at the next level following his performance at A&M. At number 5, it is former LSU defensive tackle and current Houston Gamblers defensive tackle Rashard Lawrence. Rashard Lawrence was a member of the infamous 2019 LSU National Championship team that is widely regarded as one of, if not the greatest college football team of all time. He started 11 games that season and tallied 28 tackles and 25 sacks. This came after 3 seasons as an off-and-on starter for the Tigers, and the resume he put together during his college years was enough for the Arizona Cardinals to select him in the 4th round of the 2020 NFL Draft. After arriving in Glendale, though, Lawrence struggled to find his footing. He battled injury and was placed on injured reserve during 3 of his 4 years with the Cardinals. He never recorded a sack with the team and was cut ahead of the 2023 season. He spent time with the Dolphins, Texans, Panthers, and Broncos in the following 2 seasons, but still failed to stick with any of them. This led him to the UFL, where he signed with the San Antonio Brahmas before the 2025 season. Lawrence found a much larger role as a Brahma, recording 20 total tackles and appearing in 9 of San Antonio's 10 games. However, the Brahmas are among the teams being discontinued in 2026, and he was selected by the Houston Gamblers in the dispersal draft. The Gamblers roster is certainly thin at first glance, especially at the defensive tackle position. This should be Lawrence's first full season as a starter since his college days, so if you are an LSU fan looking to see a former Tiger succeed, this will be the best chance he's had at the next level. Next at number 4 is former Kentucky running back and current Louisville Kings running back, Benny Snell. Benny Snell was an absolute star at Kentucky, and after a few years away from the NFL, he's attempting a career revival in the UFL. Snell spent 3 seasons as a Kentucky Wildcat and dominated in each one. He rushed for over 1,000 yards in all 3 years, despite only being a starter for 2 of them. His best year came in 2018, where he rushed for 1,474 yards and 16 touchdowns in 13 games. He was a large part of Kentucky's success that season, as the Wildcats finished 10-3, ranked number 12 in the country, and with a win over number 24 Penn State in the Citrus Bowl. Even with all his college success, Snell slipped to the 4th round of the 2019 NFL Draft, where he was selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers 122nd overall. He joined a running back room where he was the 2nd string behind James Conner, whom Pittsburgh had drafted the year before. Snell remained Conner's backup throughout the 2019 season, as the Steelers' backfield struggled as a whole. He saw one breakout performance against the New York Giants in 2020, but was never able to break through as Pittsburgh's true starter. The Steelers didn't elect to pick up his 5th-year option, and Snell became a free agent following the 2022 season. Snell signed with the Detroit Lions ahead of the 2023 preseason, but he did not make the 53-man roster. Snell hasn't played a down of football since, and many of his fans believed he was done with the sport entirely. That was until he entered the 2026 UFL Draft and was selected by the Louisville Kings, creating what could very well be one of, if not the best, backfield in the league. At number 3 is former Wake Forest, Louisiana Tech, and Boise State quarterback and current Orlando Storm quarterback, Hank Bachmeier. Hank Bachmeier is largely known for his lengthy journey through college football that saw him spend time at Boise State, Louisiana Tech, and then ultimately Wake Forest. He's most well known for his time at Boise State, as that is where he started his college career and also where he saw the most success. He started 13 games in his first 2 seasons, passing for a combined 3,029 yards and 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. His junior year in 2021 ended up being the best season of his career. He threw for 3,079 yards and 20 touchdowns to 8 interceptions that season as he led Boise State to a 7-5 record. The following season was not up to Bachmeier's expectations, though. He struggled through the first 4 games of the season and was eventually benched in favor of Taylon Green. Bachmeier decided to enter the transfer portal and took his talents to Louisiana Tech. However, Bachmeier struggled to solidify the starting role there as well. While he did lead the team in passing yards that season, he was rotated through the starting role with Jack Turner and wasn't able to recreate his 2021 success. This led Bachmeier back to the transfer portal for his final season. He broke through to the Power 4 level for his final year as he committed to Wake Forest of the ACC. He battled injury that kept him out of 2 games during the 2024 season, but he still put together a solid year. He threw for 2,593 yards and 16 touchdowns in 10 games, but he had one major pitfall: his interceptions. He threw a career-high 10 interceptions that year, and it ultimately cost him any chance at being selected in the 2025 NFL Draft. Bachmeier signed with the BC Lions of the CFL in May, but was released after just a few days with the team. It appeared his football career may be over, as he was out of football for the remainder of 2025. However, he now has one more opportunity as the Orlando Storm signed him in early February. He will enter a competition with two fellow former college stars in Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Jack Plummer. Bachmeier will have to win the quarterback job out of that stacked room if he wants to revive his football career. At number 2 is former Iowa safety and current St. Louis Battlehawks safety Michael Ojemudia. Michael Ojemudia is entering his second season in the UFL, but seeing as he's experiencing a change of scenery, and I didn't talk about him last season, he certainly deserves a look on this list. Ojemudia was a star in his days as an Iowa Hawkeye from 2015 to 2019. While he didn't produce much during his first 3 seasons, 2018 and 19 saw him emerge as a ball hawk safety. He recorded 3 interceptions in both seasons while totaling a combined 91 tackles. Despite this, he wasn't initially very highly rated on NFL Scouts draft boards. That was until he stood out in Mobile, Alabama at the 2020 Senior Bowl. Ojemudia climbed draft boards and was eventually selected by the Denver Broncos in the 3rd round of the 2020 NFL Draft. He was named a starter as a rookie in Denver and recorded 62 total tackles, only 7 of which assisted, along with 6 pass breakups and 4 forced fumbles. It seemed the Broncos had a star on their hands, but after Denver's selection of Patrick Surtain in the 2021 NFL Draft, Ojemudia began to slide down the depth chart. His 2021 season was pretty unproductive, and after an injury in 2022, Ojemudia was released. He spent the next 2 seasons playing for the Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams, and Arizona Cardinals, but after being released by Arizona in 2024, he decided to join the UFL. He signed with the DC Defenders in January of 2025 and found his first starting role he'd had in years. He recorded 1 interception and 30 total tackles as he helped guide the Defenders to the 2025 UFL Championship. His performance in DC earned him a preseason contract with the Dallas Cowboys, but he failed to make the team. In his return to the UFL this season, he signed with the St. Louis Battlehawks in free agency as he aims to lock down a starting job on his second team. And finally, at number 1, I have former Baylor wide receiver and current Dallas Renegades wide receiver Denzel Mims. Mims was an underrated superstar in his college days as he was a 2-time 1,000-yard receiver at Baylor and its number 1 target when healthy for 3 seasons. During his senior season in 2019, Mims was named to the All-Big 12 first team after recording 1,020 yards and 12 touchdowns. After a good performance at the NFL Combine, Mims was selected by the Jets in the 2nd round of the 2020 NFL Draft. However, things never really got going for Mims in the league. He missed the first 6 weeks of the 2020 season due to injury and only started 8 and 3 games in his first 2 seasons with the Jets, respectively. He requested a trade ahead of the 2022 season, but it wasn't granted. He continued to struggle in 2022, and that ultimately changed the minds of New York's front office as it traded him to the Detroit Lions in 2023. But Mims failed to make the team during the 2023 preseason, and while he spent some time with the Steelers and Jaguars across the 2023 and 24 seasons, he couldn't get anything to stick. He chose to join the UFL following the lack of NFL success, signing with the St. Louis Battlehawks in October of 2024. However, the grass wasn't much greener for Mims in St. Louis, as he only started 1 game and recorded 51 yards and no touchdowns before he was released in May of the following year. Mims went unprotected by the Battlehawks in the 2026 UFL Dispersal Draft and was selected by the Dallas Renegades. He now faces what very well may be his last chance to revive his career. So, which of these former college stars are you most excited to see on the field again in 2026? But with that said, thank you all for watching, and take care.